double down. Only one enemy remains. Don't let them catch their breath. Ha! Put a
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Church of Caboose, and we're going to talk about Trials of Osiris Tips Part 2. This is Part 2 of a probably 3-part series. Next part will probably be about strategy, but this part is about the subclasses I plan to use on a Warlock, a Hunter, and a Titan. If you please pardon my voice, I am still sick and recovering, and as a result of that, my gameplay might be rather boring, and I don't intend to switch out for every character, but I might. We'll see how I feel up to it as I progress through the video. And then, as always, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, so that way, if you want to keep up to date, I cover things like raids, new season content, I try to give predictions and trailers. Some clanmates are throwing out other ideas of stuff I might do. They'll be a little bit more involved, but they are kind of interesting. So if you just kind of want to see what happens, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you feel so inclined, hit the bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. Okay, so back to the whole subclass thing. For Warlock, I have been really liking using Top Tree Stormcaller with the Crown of Tempest helmet. There's a chance I will use Nova Bomb in Trials instead, depending upon how things goes. But right now, I'm really liking Top Tree Stormcaller with the Crown of Tempest exotic helmet. Why do I like this subclass so much? Well, Stormcaller is pretty strong. I feel like it's one of the beefier supers as far as like how hard is it to take you out when you're rolling in your super. And I really like having the web arc thing that you get with Top Tree. I forget, I'm blanking on what it's called. Basically, when you hit 2 enemies or more, get damaged by one of your grenades, they chain back and forth together additional damage until they get far enough apart or until enough time has passed. This will allow your team to disrupt the flow of the other team, as well as allow your team to rush in there and maybe get a couple of kills real quick and to quickly turn your situation to being 3v1 or 2v1, something like that. So that's why I really like this particular subclass. You might be asking yourself, well, Church, what about using good old like stopping those reses? Because I mentioned in the last video, something I take a lot of account into with weapons is trying to reduce and slow down reses, and that abilities help that. Alright, so here we go. So if you have Arc Web going, it activates from any grenade, from my understanding, but it's easiest to accomplish with the chain grenade, the arc web, but like little like hunter type thing. Anyways, so you are able to then have that chaining, and it'll still stop the res for a little bit longer than having a pulse grenade down on the res. And that ability should also be able to activate on the pulse grenade. And so if you were to want to try it out, you could still use an arc subclass and have that pulse grenade rolling on the good old orb and preventing that res. Hopefully that made sense. It made sense to me. Let me know down below what you guys like the most for Warlocks. That's just what I like so far. And as we get into the actual Trials of Osiris, I might update this depending upon how things work. If you guys are thinking, hey, Church, what about good old Nova Bomb with the super held Nova doing the Nova Warp? That is probably a close favorite of mine. However, This Week at Bungie article mentioned they're messing with the Nova handheld Supernova just a little bit, so it might not be as effective, or it could be more effective. Who knows? I hear it's going to get more range, so it might be more effective than it has been in the past, and so that could be something I also mess around with quite a bit. But currently, I've been really enjoying using Top Tree Stormcaller, so the good old Arc subclass. All right, let's talk a little bit now about the Hunter. Okay, on the Hunter, I am not very good with the Hunter supers. For some reason, I struggle bus, and so I really like using Blade Barrage. Something where I can just be like super, get 1 or more kills. That gives me a quick advantage for myself and or my team, and I can go right back into the fight with weapons instead of roaming around with a weak golden gun, because if you miss, you'll probably die, and golden gun's not something I am very good at. And then spectral blades are a bit of a roaming. They work out pretty well. I've just been finding I prefer Blade Barrage the most, but Spectral Blades are a close second. The exotic I like using on the Hunter is the Dragon's Shadow exotic chest piece. I like using it a lot because if you equip Gambler's Dodge, you then are able to reload your melee and your weapons when you dodge instead of just one or the other, because the exotic chest piece reloads your weapons when you dodge. So if you do Gambler's Dodge on your skill tree, then you are able to do both, get your weapons reloaded and your melee. And then the Gambler's Dodge is actually a farther movement, so it lets you get out of the way, put more distance between you and wherever it is you're trying to get away from, which is a huge advantage to have, which is why I like using the Dragon Shadow chest piece. And again, if we get new exotics and stuff we don't know with Season of the Worthy, maybe I'll have some change ups with what I have on to my Hunter. That's just what I really like to do. Then for grenades, I have been finding Swarm Grenade helps a lot for keeping your opponents off of those orbs to get reses, but unfortunately Swarm Grenades don't seem to do a whole lot for killing opponents. They seem pretty weak as grenades overall, but it does it well enough for keeping reses from being able to happen, which is a huge advantage, like I mentioned with the Warlock. When you pick abilities, is to pick things that can help prevent reses, which will give you and your team time to recover without having a res happen, and or the time to rush in and overwhelm that person that is left trying to get to that res. So it's really nifty to have. Now let's move on to the Titan, and we're about to wrap this video up. Okay, y'all, last but not least, we're going to talk about the Titan. The Titan is my favorite and main character for my account on Destiny 2, and I actually have two subclasses that I enjoy a great deal, and both have huge advantages in my opinion. But also I'm a Titan main, and so it could just be I'm more used to playing with Titans, and so more things work out well for me. Whereas the other two classes, Hunter and Warlock, I don't really play a whole lot on, and so perhaps that's why I feel very limited when I try to play on those two characters. The best option I would think for most folks would be top tree Code of the Earthshaker. So instead of doing Code of the Juggernaut, do the top tree, because you get two pulse grenades. Well, I would say you need to pick pulse grenades. Most people that play on Titan when they're running Arc don't do anything besides pulse grenades, and so to me it'd be kind of weird if you were to run a Titan and not do pulse grenades, because pulse grenades are amazing at shutting off avenues of attack to kind of let yourself get a chance to heal, preventing reses, and for taking down other opponents' barricades. Titans are also going to have a little bit of an adjustment to their barricades this Season of the Worthy. The TWAB mentioned that barricades are going to get more health. However, the special weapons, especially shotguns and fusion rifles, are going to have increased damage against barriers. So they're wanting to give people a reason to try and use some of their special ammo to take out barriers instead of just saving it. Alright, so anyways, top tree Titan is fantastic, mostly because of the two pulse grenades. You might argue, but don't you want to have the Code of the Juggernaut so you have the really long super time? I would counter that argue with you're only 3v3. Most likely, even if you can't get all three of your opponents, just killing one or two of them will be enough to get the win. And if depending upon your timing, you could probably get two, if not three, rather consistently when you're playing in Trials of Osiris, and you probably really don't need to use Code of the Juggernaut. If you were to use Code of the Juggernaut, maybe instead of One-Eyed Mask, throw on that Armamentarium that gives you two grenades, so that way you kind of use the exotic to get two pulse grenades instead of using Top Tree. The reason I also like using Top Tree is because then I can use One-Eyed Mask. One-Eyed Mask lets me wall hack, as you can see there on screen, so I can see where opponents are moving, and it gives me a brief increase to weapon damage, which is nice. And then Top Tree also has a shoulder charge, whereas Code of the Juggernaut, bottom tree does not have a shoulder charge. And having a shoulder charge kind of gives you a couple more options when you're trying to rush in and get some kills, and it gives you a little bit more, creativity with your gameplay as opposed to Code of the Juggernaut. I also really like the top tree hammers on the solar side of Titan, running a thermite grenade and one-eyed mask. Yes, I'm that toxic Titan that likes using one-eyed mask, but hey, at least you don't get that crazy overshield anymore. So top tree solar is the hammers. The reason I like those more is because those hammers break apart. So when you kill an enemy or when the hammers explode on something, they shatter, which gives you a little bit more room for error when, like, as far as maybe missing a throw goes, as well as makes it more likely to get a multi-kill with one hammer throw, which increases your odds of getting all three opponents down with that same super, which I really like a lot. Okay, dokie, guys. I really hope this video helped you guys out to know with what I am going to be using most likely on Subclasses and Trials of Osiris. Hopefully, I gave you some stuff to think about as far as why I'm using things and maybe some considerations into your choices. I fully expect Trials to be super duper toxic. There's going to probably be lots of buffs, nerfs, and whatever, so this video might become irrelevant pretty quickly. But at least for the first little chunk of time, I think this will be pretty helpful to you all. Let me know down below if you did find it helpful, what kinds of stuff you guys like using on Subclasses and in Trials. And if you want to check out my suggestions for weapon loadouts, make sure you check out the card right here. Yeah, that card up there, top right. Because that was part 1 where I talked about weapon choices and what I think I will be using for weapons in Trials and why. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.